The first thing we have to consider is it that important to interpret the Bible? For us, it is. Yeah, I've already asked the question through the videos, but we define ourselves as a restoration movement. So the question is, what do we want to restore? Do we want to restore middle-aged Christianity? I don't think so. We want to restore biblical Christianity. But what does it mean to restore? And what is the source of information we have to restore a movement that is biblical? The answer is quite easy. It's the Bible. But when it comes to read and study the Bible, I've taken a quote from a book that I really enjoyed. It's called Cross Vision from Gregory Boyd. And he says, a messed up reading of the Bible leads to messed up belief and narratives about God, which lead to messed up people saying and doing messed up things in the name of God. And saying messed up things in the name of God has happened so many times through church history. You know that. And I think you don't even know half of it. That's a really... church history is a real mess. Yeah. And if we want to restore Christianity in our times, we have to go back to the source, but we need to use it properly. So, who answered the survey which was associated with the videos? Great. So I got 22 answers, and here are the answers. To the first question, so I put the average and median results and the minimum and maximum you've asked, because it was in a percentage. So the first question, the Bible, Old Testament and New Testament, is God's very own words without any errors about any subject, including science, history, geography, psychology, philosophy, and the answers went from 0 to 100. It depends, I think it depends on how you understand the question. But still it gives a feeling of how we consider the Bible. And the average answer was 76. The second question was, through the Bible, Old Testament, New Testament, God gives all He wants to say to humanity about every kind of subject. And the average was 60. So you can remember what you answered, if you remember it, and try to figure out in which kind of range you are. But we do not need anything else than the Bible to understand the world we live in. And we go to 38 average, 38%. Because I think we are aware that the Bible will help us spiritually, but if you want to be a physician, you will need something else than just the Bible. So for any issue the Christian have in his life, he can find the divine answer in the Bible, Old Testament and New Testament, because the Bible is like an inerrant handbook for Christian living on a full array of subjects, including finances, health, Romans, raising children, and many more. And we have an average of 58. Any reasonably intelligent person can read the Bible in his own language and correctly understand the plain meaning of the text.
Just a quick question. So min and max shows who, like the lowest answer someone did and the highest?
Yeah, the lowest answer and the
So was that a mistake?
Each time there is a 0 and each time there is 100. Only 2 questions have no 0 or 100, but they are after. That's interesting to, I come back to the reasonably intelligent person who can read the Bible in his own language and correctly understand the plain meaning of the text. If that was really true, you wouldn't be there, or I wouldn't be there to try to help you understand how to interpret. The best way to understand a biblical text is by reading them in their explicit, plain, most obvious literal sense. We fall to 42%. And here we don't have a 0-100 range of answers, as the maximum answer was 90%. To understand any given biblical text, we only need to put it in the context of the rest of the Bible. The Bible interprets itself. We do not need anything else than the text of the Bible. And the average was 50. All related passages of the Bible on any given subject fit together almost like puzzle pieces into single, unified, internally consistent bodies of instruction about right and wrong belief and behavior. That was a hard question with many things in it, but the average was 67. And the minimum was not 0 this time, it was 5. 0 or 5. And what the biblical authors taught God's people at any point in history remains universally valid for all Christians at every other time, unless explicitly revoked by subsequent scriptural teaching. And the average was 55. So if we take all the answers, we are over 50 each time, which would say we are not a integrist. You remember the slide with the integrist and liberal, and so we are not on the extreme left of the slide, but maybe we are a bit near the middle, but on the half side, which I called, as I remember, conservative. And that's what I think we are as a group. We are a conservative Christian, but not integrist nor literalists, but quite conservative. And as I've been through, I've been in university in Geneva, and I've been taught the scientific way to interpret the Bible. I talked about in one of my videos. For them, we are really conservative, and they are quite liberal. Even if all my professors were quite objective, or tried to be, if they would come here, they would consider us as conservative, which we are. And I think it's a good thing. So, in listening to me today, your duty is to adopt what I call the Berean attitude. The attitude of the Bereans in Acts 17. Everyone knows this verse, Acts 17:11, which means that you have the right to disagree at some points. And you can take some of my teachings and forget some other parts. But doing that, it should not be a reaction. Like, everything you said is wrong. Yeah, maybe. But, and also, you remember the hindrances I was talking about through the videos, that we have a culture, we have a background, we have a church background, a personal background, and when we read the Bible, we come with all this, and we read the Bible with this background. And there are traditions that we have, even if we are not a movement with multiple traditions, like Catholic people, but we still have traditions. And it's normal to have a tradition as a church movement. But when we read the Bible, very often we read with our tradition. And the tradition we have inside of us is like a program that makes us refuse things. And we have to be aware of it, because maybe I will say something that will hurt your tradition. And so just think about it. Don't just react. And try to have a good reasoning and on yourself and on the text, as long as we go through the day today. Also, I prepared this especially for you ESOM students, because you want to know more about the Bible. You want to go deeper. You want to have more details, more methods to interpret it. But what I will say today is not necessarily adapted to a non-Christian that is studying the Bible. So don't go to a non-Christian that doesn't know anything about the Bible and tell them directly what I will teach today, because they may not understand, or it may confuse them. Sometimes we do some shortcuts, like the shortcuts I underlined in my videos, saying that Jesus is the Word of God. The Bible is not the Word of God. Jesus is the Word of God. But if you go to a non-Christian and telling him you have to obey the Bible because Jesus is the Word of God, he may be a bit confused. And you have the right to use these shortcuts to say the Bible is the Word of God. For someone who has no spirituality, who doesn't know the Bible, you have the right to do that. And later, you will understand the difference between the Bible, a testimony, the Word of God, everything I explained in the videos. Am I clear there? That's a very important point. What I will teach to you today is like the second or third step that is not appropriate for some people to hear. Okay? So it means you will have to be wise in what you say to other people, even in the church. If you have a new Christian and you tell him, no, the Bible is not the Word of God. What? I've been taught that. Maybe you will understand later the different steps to reach the point to understand that, okay, there is difference between the Bible and Jesus, but I can't find Jesus without the Bible. And this is more complicated. And everyone has to grow at his speed, his own speed. So today, what we're going to do, you have seen the videos already, and for those who didn't have all the videos, I will do what I call the whistle truffled at the end. So now, let's go. Yes.